All right. Happy Tuesday, Powerhouse and Dreammakers. Welcome to this week's RIP. Today, it's going to be all about the in and up, the glorious in and up. This can be the best step in the world, and it can also be the most skipped step in the world. And so I want you guys to lean in. We've got Brittany Finch. Brittany, how do you say I know you like changed your name, Estudi, and I have yet to say
Yeah,
it.
you did good. Estudio. Yeah, I finally did it after almost 4 years of marriage.
Listen, I've been married for 5 years and my name is still Muse. John, he stopped asking me because I just haven't done it. So I need to get on and do that as well. But without further ado, guys, it is everything to do with the in and up. I think, in my opinion, the in and up is one of the most important steps. It's a part of that magic move that Jordan was talking about just a few minutes ago on the call, third party call, but then the in and up, you have to have that third party voice to solidify sales, to help you with underwriting. There's a lot that goes into it. And if you are not hitting 10K club and you are not tracking your in and ups, do so. Even if you feel like there is no reason or no way to close a sale, I would rather, as you're getting kicked out of a house, to literally be like, let me call Laura, let me call Babz, let me call Charles, let me call, Ashley, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. It's better to call and still get turned down than to not call at all. Right? It's a missed opportunity. Every single time you leave a presentation, it is a missed opportunity to learn or to close the sale. Right? There's some people that won't even count their presentation if they don't get to the in and up, or they don't do the in and up. They don't even count it as a presentation because it's not fully done. Right? It's half. So, Brittany, let's talk all things in and up. You are one of the best when it comes to an in and up. Sorry guys, I'm on like my third cup of coffee. Making sure that it's not too long, you're not giving too much information. It's easy breezy, lemon squeezy. You're on the phone for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's not 5 or 10 minutes on the phone. So run us through, give us everything from the in and up. Let's go.
Yeah, I definitely think that this could be arguably the most important step. I mean, there's like a reason that your coach says 10 to 15 presentations with in and ups in every house, right? I mean, we hear it all the time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about effectively get an in and up and some power phrases. But this is like the importance from the agent's perspective. I'm sure that like at the builders boot camp, there could be like how to give the in and up or whatever, but this is about why step 6 from the person in the house doing the presentation. So it's in step 6, right? Because you have done all of the gathering of information. You presumably have all of the info you need to make the sale, right? You have done the thorough review, but now you need somebody else to kind of solidify that sale. So, I mean, for me, like just do it. It's part of the 10-step presentation. I don't really have a whole lot of trouble getting to the in and up, although a lot of new agents do. I remember when I was new and I was like, Laura, Kaylin, I couldn't get the in and up, right? But I think it's sort of like at the door. Assume your way in and up, right? So don't make it a yes or no question. Don't ask. So you have to be the leader of this presentation, right? You're controlling it and making sure that you can do your job while you're in the house. So one thing that Ashley teaches, and Laura too, this is what we're going to do next, right? We're going to call our specialist. Let me reach out to my XYZ specialist, right? Whether it's my diabetic specialist, my Lincoln Heritage specialist, my universal policy specialist, whatever that is for your particular client, because you want to make them feel like, oh, I have somebody who can help me. Some reasons that you might want to do the in and up, right? If you're not in the 10K club, right? Do it in and up. You got a low closing ratio. Now that we have those on our trackers, right? Do an in and up in every house. Can't get to the policy review or the next step, whatever it is, do an in and up. But, that's where you can also text your group thread and say, I can't get to the policy review. They won't go get their policy or they won't go get their meds. Like, Obviously there, there could be coaching about how to do that later, but if you need it in the house, ask for help. So it's definitely useful getting to the next place.
Right. So there's always, like, if you're struggling with getting to the in and up, there's a bigger problem that needs coaching, right? It should be to where, like, if they're not allowing you to do the in and up, or you're asking in a certain way, then we got to find out, okay, is it the vault? Are you not creating enough value, urgency, likability, or trust to open up for that in and up, right? Everything should kind of come together to where it's like the cherry on top, where you're just saying, okay, I've got all of this, I've created all this doubt, all this urgency with, the steps of the presentation. They should be on pins and needles, like hearing what the in and up is going to, like, what's going to happen in that in and up on an effective presentation, right? And so if you're not able to get it, you need to do some self-reflections, and instead of saying, hey, you know what, they didn't let me, or you take that excuse, uncover why you're getting that, right? Uncover why. Okie dokie, let's go ahead here. Next.
And then it's also important for underwriting, right? Like, it helps when you can't get the full story. The questions that the coach or the specialist might ask, create some question-based selling angles, right? You can lean on your coaches and your upline here, but there are some deep dive questions, that can be uncovered on the phone. So a lot of it, when I find, it's like when somebody's in a wheelchair, or, okay, are they getting home health, right? I mean, that's not something that's on our list of things to ask, but are they getting home health, or is somebody helping with their ADLs or something like that? So there's like some more deep dive questions, like based on experience, that your coach can ask. One example was last week I was riding with Kaylin, and she took an in and up for Lois. And then when we got off the phone with Lois, I was just listening, and I was like, hey, that person was in a wheelchair. Like, what about, UHL, right? And so then we ended up calling Lois back, and UHL wasn't a good fit, but we found out that the lady was not actually confined in the wheelchair, right? So when you ask a few more questions, and you can figure out, because your coach knows, well, what does Royal Neighbors consider as confined, right? So there are certain definitions that, coaches know, and you can really lean on your coach here for, proper underwriting and an ethical sale. So even when you think, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, even when you think the presentation is coming to an early end, I always say, let me reach out to my specialist, just make sure I'm not missing anything before I leave, right? So, and I have another example I can tell you, but go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Continue.
Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, there's no sale here. This guy has a funeral home policy or whatever. He's got to pay. He's paying on a plan. He's all set. And I texted that to my in and up thread, and it was like the week I was going against Ryan, and Ryan ended up taking my call, and he's like, oh, here we go. But he actually helped me uncover that the man had only made one payment on that funeral home situation, right? And so while we were on the phone, I was even surprised. I was like, really? So it's not paid up already? Like that extra person can help you figure out where the sales angle is. And he uncovered more information with me and helped me ask the right questions, ask the clients, got them thinking, so that we were able to make the sale.
Isn't it funny how sometimes, like, when we're right in the thick of it, right there with the client, we can miss things. I don't care who you are. If I'm in a home, like, I'm not afraid to still call Ashley if I need to, you know what I mean? Like, go, whatever is going to work, you need to pull on that, right? And I just think that when you have that eagle eye view type of thing coming into the conversation, there are so many things that we can miss because we're looking at so many different parts, whether it's 5 different policies that we just reviewed, or we're trying to keep the person in front of us engaged enough, then it's like, well, we can kind of release some of that responsibility onto the person that is doing the in and up. So here we go.
So I find that, in the beginning when I would skip it or I couldn't get it, or maybe, some of my agents are skipping it. I think that ooh, sorry guys, my phone fell. I think that there's some excitement, you like want to make the sale. Maybe you got a little commission breath and you just want to skip straight to the numbers or rush the process. But, you do have to slow down to speed up, a lot of times you can't see the angle, right? If you don't have enough experience yet out in the field, you need that support, that specialist. So if you think there's no angle, or you think you might lose the sale or the attention of the client, right? Some people get really bored, there's all kinds of people out there. You have to read your client, but I think that getting somebody on the phone that can help address them can actually re-engage them, right? Keep them going. Another thing is that you can be
Brittany, I want to kind of teach, like, because I feel like the second one, think they might lose the sale. Dive more into that. Maybe you have an example where you thought you might have lost the sale, but I feel like that stops a lot of people that have it, like they can close, but they're not closing when they want to, but they understand enough. Maybe they're a year in, right? Maybe they're not in their 90-day learning curve, but they feel like sometimes calling in for that third party will make them lose a sale. Kind of touch base more on that, like dive into the thought process, why someone would have that, and how to fix it.
Yeah, I think that some clients, think like, oh, I don't want them in my business, right? Like, who are you calling? You have to really like make the person that you're going to call the expert, and like the anonymous expert, to like they have all this knowledge, and really like talk them up. So because the whole point is edification of what you're saying from, oh, there you go, right there. Yep. Of each other, right? They're going to repeat what you said and kind of help you make that sale. But
Okay.
a lot of people, it can be overwhelming, maybe you just did a lot of policy reviews and you've got 4 different policies with ETI and RPU and cash value. And as a new agent, you're like, what does that all mean? Right. I mean, I remember, and like with Harley, she's right here, like one of her very first sales, I had to like write it all out, and I was like, do not leave the house. Like I was doing all the math to help her, make sure that was closed, because I knew that we could help them. She didn't know in the house, like how we were going to help them. Right. Her job was to do the application and things like that and get them approved. But, when it's really complicated, a second pair of eyes definitely helps.
Right.
Another couple of things, like mistakes that can be made, or pitfalls, like improper setup. One of the things that is really, you have to be very careful when you set it up, right? Even myself, like if I feel like I'm going a certain direction because I feel like I have the angle, you have to try not to box yourself in. Like don't set it up as an add-on and make that the only answer, right? Of how to make that sale. Kind of leave it a little bit more open-ended so that there are options for the person giving the in and up, right? Even if you think like you want to lead with a certain carrier, make sure that before the recommendation has been made, set it up in a way that you're asking questions, or leading the person giving the in and up, but not saying a specific carrier too. But basically, like, trust your upline and the system that we have in place. It's part of the presentation. And just remember, like when you're in the house, yes, we say that you're the expert, but on the in and up, you have made the person on the phone the expert.
Yeah. And even too, if you feel like you know the angle, or you have it in the bag where you're not going to get, that's the other flip side, is someone will be like, okay, well, I think I know the angle. I have this in the bag. It's a lay down. I don't need to do the in and up. That's when you really, like, it goes back to consistently doing it, to have higher numbers, do every step, is when you feel like you've got it in the bag, still do it anyway. Still do it anyway, because there's going to be things that you still learn and you uncover, especially if you're a coach. Do it anyway, because that's another learning tool for you for the next time that you do an in and up for somebody. Is when you feel like you don't need it, go ahead and do it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a way to learn the underwriting too. But all right, so the proper in and up in order does matter, right? So obviously we all know text your group thread. And I think any pertinent info, like I can't get the review, or they're on oxygen, or whatever it may be. Like you don't have to give a full bio, but if there's a problem, they don't want to do the in and up, or they, I'm losing them, or whatever it is. But not the full bio unless that there's the text only option at that time. But lead with the client's name and their age, right? Then the health information and any major diagnoses. Because, red flag conditions, as the person giving the in and up, we don't need all of the medications, right? When the person is on oxygen, or, when they have congestive heart failure, there are things that we can kind of overlook and make it a little bit quicker and help you make the sale faster too. But then any major non-maintenance medications. So, anything for blood pressure, cholesterol, anxiety, depression, those are mostly like maintenance medications. So I think what helped me was Googling the medications for the health conditions that go along with it. Sometimes the clients know what they're for. But just knowing, and like as you progress through your 90 days or whatever afterwards, you learn those the medication combinations too, which ones you have to say to your coach, like, spironolactone and metoprolol or whatever it is, right? One might be okay, but together they aren't. Then the current policy information.
Yeah.
Goals for coverage and beneficiary. And I use the LIFE acronym sheet here. I think it's important to do after the policy review. That way, I used to always forget. That's why I started using it. Like, you would do my in and up and like, who's the beneficiary? And be like, okay, Ms. Johnson, who is that beneficiary? Or what were you going to use it for? Is that cremation or burial? Having all of that information before you get on the phone with the in and up.
I mean, that's huge, because if you don't know that's one of my pet peeves, right? Is when I say, who's the beneficiary? And you're like, Miss Johnson, who is going to be the beneficiary? Guys, this whole process of life insurance is they're buying it for somebody else. How do you not know who the beneficiary is going to be when the product is for them, right? It's like the common sense aspect of it, of, hey, listen, this is who it's for. I got to know who that is, because it creates what? That's the urgency. That's how you create the urgency. Let's see here. Health information diagnosis is, guys, seriously, the in and up, like a good in and up should be less than 3 minutes, in my opinion, unless there's something that is like so complicated that it takes longer, right? And if you set it up correctly, it should be that way, where we don't need to know 15, 25 medications that they're on, right? Your job is to start the underwriting process, and we help you with that. But Googling the medications and then giving us the main diagnosis. So when we call, hey, they're taking, like, don't say they're taking lisinopril, atorvastatin, and you start naming these medications. No, because that takes so long. Just go with the meat and potatoes, right? And then we can follow up and say, hey, listen, are they taking any other medications in association with these conditions here, right? Because someone could be taking 6 medications between blood pressure and cholesterol, and that's really not a problem. Do you know what I mean? So try to make it as simple as possible. And then after you do the major non-medications or the health information diagnosis, then it's that policy information, right? Give them the diabetes, metformin with neuropathy, right? And then go into, they've got this $5,000 Lincoln Heritage plan with the 2-year waiting period, the things that are really going to be like, that are going to perk our ears, so we can kind of hone in on that to create more of that urgency with whatever the angle is of the sale. But we will definitely probe with more questions. That's our job, is to probe with questions on the in and up, because that again does what? Creates doubt, creates urgency, and we help you uncover a little bit more of the information, versus it taking 2 minutes of just medications being listed versus 2 minutes, extra minutes of really uncovering the need. Make sense? Let's see here. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, there's nothing worse to like get the policy information and be really excited that it's Lincoln Heritage and be like, oh, we can definitely help them. And then find out that they're like 82 on oxygen after, you know what I mean? Like it helps, like for me, it helps me not misspeak, too soon too. But I think after the recommendation, then you should be asking, how can we maximize Ms. Johnson's final expense portfolio? That was a question that I looked back in my notes from, the new agent crash course Zoom or whatever that we did that actually said, but how can we maximize their final expense portfolio? And then what do I do next? So that way it gives the, the coach the opportunity to say what's next or to help with step 7 and 8 over the phone when you're new.
Okay.
And then from Decennium, this makes more money faster. That's something that Alex Cromie said when he was going through all the steps of the presentation, and I wrote it down next to the in and up. So I really feel that it's a power step. It helps you uncover the sales, the sales angle that you didn't even know was there. It helps you close, you edify each other in the home, you support each other, and you're not necessarily teaming up against the client, but it's sort of like 2 against 1. Like if you're both saying the same recommendation, then the client is going to want to follow you, keep up with the Joneses and like, oh, this is what everybody's doing. This is what they're both recommending. It should be true. But it gives an unbiased opinion from the anonymous expert, right? They're, they don't have any skin in the game, right? But the client feels like, oh, okay, that seems like a good idea. And then there's a lot of people. I mean, I come from restaurants, right? So there were always people that needed to speak to the manager or just to be heard, right? So it kind of conquers that too. Like some people just need to talk to somebody else, the specialist, the expert. And then it relieves the pressure of the agent, right? The agent in the house, you guys, when we're in there, it can be a lot of pressure to make the sale. And then you have the other person say, this is what I want you to do next. Ask the health questions and see if we can get you that approval so that Ms. Johnson can sleep a little better tonight.
Right. Crystal's asking, where can the red flag conditions be found? Client data sheet, unless it's another question that I'm missing. Crystal, if you want to re-ask that question or whatnot.
And I can send out what I used to. I merged both of your sheets that you have for the policy review. So I have like the old one it's bigger for me to write on, but I copied and pasted the red flag conditions in there, like the meds and the like the deep dive questions like MS and lupus and stuff like that. So I can send it out too.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's role play a little bit, right? We got about 5 minutes left. I want you to give us your verbiage on how you set up the in and up, right? And assume that you already are reading the client and you potentially feel like there's going to be a little bit of pushback. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more trust built up or likability. I don't know, right? Give us how you would set up the in and up to actually call for those folks that, that's where they run into is like, I'm too scared to do the in and up or whatever the case is. Do that. And then we'll actually do an in and up where you set it up the correct way within, a small period of time. Like a good in and up.
Okay. So I would just say, all right, well, now that we have your, it's kind of hard to start in the middle. We have what you want this policy to do for you, right? We've reviewed it over the phone. We know all the values. Here's what I want to do next. I want to give my specialist a call just to make sure that we're going to do the right thing for you. If there's any way that we can maximize your final expense portfolio. And then I would text for the in and up. And Laura responds, she's free. So I call her. Ring, ring, ring.
Hey, Babz.
Hey, Laura, I'm sitting here with Walter and Deborah. They're both 64 years young. I just needed a little bit of help here. So they're both non-smokers. Walter's borderline diabetic. Miss Deborah's very healthy, none of the big 7 conditions, but Walter is dealing with a little bit of diabetes. He did have heart surgery back in 2020. He's got a defibrillator, and he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure as well. He is a veteran, so he's got a lot of good things in place when it comes to his medical and things like that. But I just wanted to make sure that we go over their final expenses. So Walter has a policy. Great. Yeah. Walter has a policy, but it is a decreasing term policy. So the problem with this one isn't necessarily when it ends, but how much its value is when it does get to, age 100. So he'll be paying the max amount, which is $125, and it actually decreases down from $25,000 to just $900. What do you think we can do best for him to maximize his final expense portfolio?
Absolutely. So when he got this plan, was he aware of the type of plan that it was?
No. And she's a spousal rider on it as well. So I wanted to make sure we figure out what to do best for them. I'm really glad that they had something in place, but they did not know that this was going to happen until we looked at the chart and called the company.
Okay. So with it being a spousal rider, if he were to pass away, then she's left uncovered. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. Well, this is the thing, as a benefit specialist and a field underwriter, our job is to go over the different types of plans and coverages, educate folks on what they have or what's coming through the mail, and then making sure that they are paired specifically to what's going to treat them the best. And Babz, you're one of the best out in the Mebane area. And so I'm glad that you're there to help them today. So let's see what we can do. So we've got Mr. Johnson, I forgot his name, sorry. And he's 64. And I'm going to go over what you gave me. He's 64. He's borderline diabetic. Is he taking medication for that diabetes? Metformin or anything?
Just metformin, but yeah, his main condition that he's
is the congestive heart failure. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Because he does have the congestive heart failure, that's going to be one of those conditions that we're going to want to make sure that we lock in some coverage for him. Since it is your age and your health that gets you your coverage, I would probably recommend letting this decreasing term kind of do its thing. And I would add to making sure that he has some type of coverage that's going to pick up when the decreasing term kicks out, right? Again, like I said, it's based off of your age and your health. So you want to make sure that we lock that in. I would take a look at American General. That's going to be the best case scenario, the best fit for that congestive heart failure. They're going to have a lot of things that you can go over with him. It's going to have some living benefits, but it's going to be that CHF friendly carrier. And then for his wife, since she's a spousal rider, and if you were to pass away, and statistically speaking, men do pass away before their wives, I hate to say it, we want to make sure that we get her covered. We want to make sure that she has something that's individualized for her. Now, again, her health conditions, you said she's very healthy.
Yeah, none of the main conditions.
None of the main conditions. Well, good news is I think she's going to qualify for a lot of the state regulated discounts and upgrades that are available in 2023. I would tell you to take a look at Mutual of Omaha. She's probably really familiar with Mutual of Omaha, probably sees them on TV back from United Wild Kingdom days. They're going to offer an immediate coverage plan for her, so it would kick in automatically. Go ahead and ask the health questions, make sure we haven't missed anything, and find something that it's going to be comfortable as far as leaving that behind for her to take care of those post-death needs. You can use the Social Security Administration paperwork, which is outlined in your paperwork to go over with her to find out that right amount of coverage for her. And also who is going to be a contingent beneficiary if her husband were to pass, who would be the one that would take care of that post-death need. So there's a lot that you can do to help them today. So like I said, get that squared away, find some that's going to be beneficial, that's going to be locked in, it's not going to change for both of them, and we can get them squared away.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura.
All right. So you gave me like a lot of stuff there, which is great. A lot of different things that you're going to come across. And so you want to keep it short and simple if you can. Anything else that you want to go over before we get everyone out of here at 9:30?
Nope, I think that's it. But those were actually real clients in Mebane.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, guys, when in doubt, do the in and up anyway. Don't skip that step. Please, I'm telling you, especially if you're not hitting the 10K club or your 90-day learning curve or within your first year, call for the in and up because it's really is going to help you solidify sales and underwriting. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and end this week's RIP. Y'all have a great one.